Hello friends, Mandar here. I'm back with another video. Today we are going to talk about several different topics. First one about the retrogression, whether it will happen or not. What can we expect to see in the September visa bulletin and in October visa bulletin and onwards. We will also talk about whether to downgrade or not to downgrade. How will you downgrade and when should you downgrade and things like that. And we are also going to cover some other important topics that might be of interest to you. So watch this video until the end and let's get started. If you are here for the first time, welcome. My name is Mandar and I make immigration related videos for US and Canada. I'm not an immigration lawyer, so anything that I say on this video or on my channel is for information purpose only. And for your specific immigration needs, before you take any action, you should hire a competent immigration lawyer. Now, I just wanted to address a point that I made in my last video where I asked everybody if you would like to see me sitting here and talking to you directly, and the answer was overwhelmingly yes. So I got that you like my voice and you would like me to see talking to you directly on the topics of your interest. So I will continue to do so. However, I'm thinking about changing up my background and things like that. So let's see how it interests you. So now let's look at the first topic of interest, and I got a lot of questions on this one. Will there be a retrogression? We have been watching Charlie Oppenheim's interviews for the last couple of months, and in the past interview, in the latest one that he had, there was an indication made that there might be a stalling or there might be some slowing down in the dates. Now I would like to mention that what I took away from that video was that it was not going to be retrogression. He did not mention any retrogression to happen in the EB category, and that's what I believe in. Charlie has been moving the dates quite fast in the last several months, and that is for a reason, because they have ample amount of visa numbers available. Now if all of those visa numbers are going to be used, that's a different question, and we already know that about 100k of visas are going to be wasted or they may not be used in this fiscal year, and they don't spill over to the next year. That's the problem. But even in the new year, they will still have a boatload of visa numbers, the base 140,000 plus additional 150,000 visa numbers as per Charlie's prediction. So we'll go by that. It will be around 290,000. So don't worry about the number of visa numbers available in the next fiscal year. There are plenty to go around. Now the question is whether the dates will retrogress, and the answer is absolutely no, and I don't think so, because the first and foremost reason is the spillovers, which is going to happen. There is a House Appropriations Bill that we talked about a couple of videos back that was approved in the House. It has to still go to the Congress, and it has to still go to the Senate. So when and if that will get approved, we never know. Even if it gets approved, I still stick to my argument that 2020 visa numbers that were spilled over to EB category have already been used. So how can somebody retrieve those numbers and give it back to FB category? That is my question. I don't know what the logistic is going to be. I might be wrong, but that is my logic behind saying that those numbers cannot be retrieved back and given. And same applies for 2021. If the decision is not made before October 1st, those visa numbers cannot go back to FB category, because they will start utilizing them, because Charlie will already start utilizing them right from the first month. So lot rides on what happens in that appropriation bill, but regardless, I don't see any reason for Charlie retrogressing any of the EB category dates. Now I expect the filing dates chart to progress heavily in the month of October, November and December, and as usual USCIS will use filing date chart for October, November and December, but for January onwards they might start using final action date chart. Now whether the final action date chart progresses for EB2 and EB3 category, that is somewhat of a question, and I would say that it might stall a little bit before it starts moving again, but definitely lot number of people can still be able to apply for 485. That's just my thought. I'll be making an October visa bulletin prediction as soon as the September visa bulletin is available, because that's what we should go by instead of shooting in the dark. Now the next most popular topic is downgrades. So you have an EB2 file pending with USCIS, and now the dates are moving faster for EB3 India, and you are wondering if you should apply for a downgrade petition, which means can you apply for EB3 instead of EB2 and use that for your 485 filing, because those dates might be current for you. Now there are a couple of things to consider whether you should file for a downgrade or not. Now as usual, it costs a lot of money to pay to the lawyers for 140 and 485 EAD and so on. So if you are downgrading, it will cost you another extra amount to apply for that EB3 I-140. So that is one consideration. Second one is, if you are very close in your EB2 dates to become current, if you are, in my opinion, if you are within the next 6 months, I wouldn't suggest you to downgrade, but that's just my personal opinion. Your opinion could be different and your situation could be different. You might want to get that green card for some other reasons and you might not want to wait for 6 months. But in my opinion, vast majority of people can afford to wait for 6 months if their EB2 date is within the next 6 months to become current. So that's just my opinion. If you fall into that category where you are very close, my suggestion is don't go for a downgrade. Don't go for downgrade. Save that money, and you can just wait few more months for your green card. But if your date is a little bit farther, 6 months to a year, then you can consider downgrading. Now, how do you downgrade? There are a lot of blogs and there are a lot of videos on this, and I also made another video on how to downgrade your petition. Now it is always recommended to file a fresh EB3 application and not amend the EB2 application. The reason is you can always keep EB2 approved I-140 in your back pocket if dates were to move faster for EB2 in the future and EB3 does not move fast enough for you. So in that case you would have two options, EB3 and EB2. So it is always a good idea to apply for a fresh EB3 instead of amending the existing EB2 petition. And now another question is, I have already filed for my 485 using my EB2 application. Basically the situation might be that your EB2 date is current as per the filing date chart and you are able to apply for 485, but it is not yet current as per the final action date chart, and your EB3 final action date chart might be current. So in that case you might be thinking, okay, should I downgrade the petition to EB3? Now that all again depends on how close your EB2 date is to become current as per the final action date chart. If it's within few months, I would suggest don't do anything, just wait for your final action to become current for EB2 and go with that. But if it's more than a year or so, it might be worthwhile to change your petition to EB3 so that then you can take advantage of that faster moving final action date for EB3. So now the question is, if your petition is already pending and 485 with EB2, can you downgrade? Yes, you can downgrade. So what happens is you file for a fresh EB3 application. You could do it in premium processing and you can file another 485 along with your EB3 petition, which will then move faster because your final action date chart, if it is current as per EB3, then it will move faster and then it will get processed. Nothing will happen to your EB2. So at the time of adjudication of your EB3 for 485, they will know that you also have another EB2 petition pending, so they will just ignore that or they will just cancel that and they will just file your EB3 petition if it is further ahead in terms of your readiness to get your green card. So hope that makes sense. Now another important question is, and a lot of people have asked me about this question, is they are on H1 or L1 visa and they are in the process of their green card in the final stage of 485 and they have got their EAD card. Now is it possible to use or is it possible to maintain H1B as well as EAD at the same time? Now here is the deal. When you are on H1B, you have certain conditions and obligations to meet. For example, your H1B is valid for the duration of your employment with the petitioner. So basically, if your employer has filed your H1B, you are obligated to work for them for the duration of the H1B. So duration is one. Second is the location. The LCA, underline LCA for the H1B mentions your location. That has to be maintained if you go outside of that geographical location beyond 50 miles or so, or beyond drivable distance, then you have to file an amendment. The third thing is your salary and your job title and description. If any of those things change, you are technically required to file an amendment. Okay, so those are the conditions to maintain your H1. So as long as you are maintaining that condition, you are maintaining your H1B. Now the question is, if you also have an EAD based on your green card, can you use that? Now this is a gray area, and nowhere the law says that you cannot use or you can use. My thinking is you should technically be able to use your EAD for a secondary job, say for instance if it's a part-time job outside of your H1B. So as long as you are maintaining your H1B and fulfilling all your conditions for that H1B, you will still maintain it and you can still do a side job on an EAD. But don't quote me on that, that is just my opinion. You should still consult a lawyer before taking any actions. Because this question came up a lot many times, I thought I would address that. And one more important thing, if your side job involves you moving outside of your H1 territory, then you have to file an H1B amendment and you have to explain why you are moving and things like that. So you need to be careful while using an EAD, because it may violate your H1 terms and conditions. And that's why I say it is better to stay on either H1 or EAD, but technically there is no law preventing you from maintaining your H1B and also using your EAD for a second job. So really that's what I wanted to mention in this particular video. I will be making a prediction video for September and October in the next few weeks, so stay tuned to my channel. If you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe, and thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.